Welcome to a new edition of Eco Africa, a weekly environmental show. I am Sandra Twinobdio here in Kampala, Uganda. Well, we've now been living with the coronavirus pandemic for over half a year, and I'm sure majority of us have something like this. Well, due to the many restrictions around the world, nature and the environment have been able to recover. We'll find out more about this today.
Yes, indeed, Sandra. Hello and greetings from me, Neota Igwe in Lagos, Nigeria. Glad to see you're here again to spend the next half hour thereabout with us in the forests of Ethiopia and on the streets of Berlin. Plus, walking around in sandals made from algae, how monks in Ethiopia are looking after the environment, why cycling isn't just good for the climate. Machines make our lives easier, but using them often takes a toll on the environment. When the internal combustion engine was developed in the 19th century, there was no way of predicting that the pioneering invention would cause air pollution and a number of serious health issues. Now, technology is still a beautiful thing. And that's why innovators today remain committed to finding eco-friendlier ways of powering machines. And when these inventions help to counteract climate change, then, well, just see for yourself.
Withered corn husks aren't uncommon in Rwanda these days. The current drought has lasted months, and the increasingly extreme weather threatens the livelihoods of local farmers, especially those in the eastern part of the country. It's apparent that climate change is real and increasingly dangerous. The farming seasons that people are used to are no longer predictable. At times, it rains where one expected drought or drought instead of rains. It's confusing. You can't just farm and have hope of having harvest. Luayito Nyampeta is one farmer who has been fortunate during these hard times. Her fields are near a river, so she's been able to pump sufficient water to her crops. But the diesel needed to power the pumps is expensive, and the exhaust that is emitted as a result contributes to greenhouse effect. Now Rwanda is increasing its reliance on solar power. Researchers and technology experts from a Rwandan startup have developed a solar-powered irrigation system. The high-tech project was financed by a USAID organization and the Rwandan government. The new irrigation plant came at just the right time for 40 farmers from a cooperative in the Ungoma district. The drought made agriculture more difficult, and the cost of renting the diesel pumps nearly consumed the meager earnings. We ended up spending much of our earnings on buying fuel while using the fuel pumping generators. There's little left for our livelihood. Now, we have gotten rid of all those expenses. We only need to deploy someone to water the plants. Due to the more affordable irrigation, farmers can now tend larger areas of land and keep farming all year. Their yields are much higher as a result. I was only harvesting 50 kilograms of beans and 2 bags of sorghum each season. Now, with solar irrigation, the yield volume has multiplied by 3. I'm considering expanding my farming even more. Solar-powered irrigation systems should be up and running in all 30 districts in the country by the end of 2021. An official from the Agriculture Ministry says that Rwanda hopes to have a climate-neutral economy by 2050.
The Ministry of Agriculture has adopted the solar system, the irrigation through the solar system, because of it's cheaper in terms of energy consumption. And secondly, it's climate smart.
Climate smart also means a more thoughtful way of managing water, one of the Earth's most valuable resources. The startup that builds the solar irrigation system has also developed a system to measure the temperature and moisture of the soil. Sensors calculate the exact amount of water needed by the plants. Farmers are then notified via an app about when and how much they should water their crops.
The plants need to get the optimum of what they need. That's why we believe when they use this technology, they are going to improve their production. And it has been tested to be a success in the pilot phase we have been doing.
This pilot system is powered by solar energy as well. Now the farmers know exactly which plants need water and how much they need. For the time being, they're improvising with plastic bottles, which will soon be replaced by water hoses.
The coronavirus pandemic sent shockwaves around the world and changed our lives in countless ways. But there has been an unexpected upside. The environment has been able to take a breather, much needed at that. There's been less air traffic, fewer cars on the roads, and fewer people needing to go from point A to point B.
And in big cities around Europe, many people are hopping on their bikes for a greener mode of transport. In the German capital alone, the number of bike riders has really increased. Many people in Berlin no longer want to use public transport, and business is booming in lots of bike shops.
Change is afoot. Cycling may soon overtake driving in Berlin and elsewhere in Germany.
People who sell their car and switch to a bike tend not to buy another car.
The mechanics here at Schindelhauer Bikes are extremely busy and have been for months. The company, founded in 2009, designs and builds high-end bikes.
This year has been exceptional. We've seen a huge increase in demand for bikes, and that definitely has to do with the coronavirus crisis.
Schindelhauer produces a range of models and also offers custom bikes. It champions streamlined simplicity and innovation. Some of its bikes cost more than €5,000. They're all hand-built. But will the boom continue after the pandemic is over?
We do expect to see a slight cooling of the market, but local authorities are really promoting biking nowadays. Bike lanes are popping up all over Berlin and elsewhere. Paris is a good example. It's doing a lot to upgrade its cycling infrastructure. So the potential is huge. Lots of people are switching to a bike, and that will probably continue.
In Berlin, London, Paris, all across Europe, cycling is seriously trending. Last year, the German bike market was worth €4.2 billion, 1/3 more than the year before. This bike shop in Berlin is doing well. It's called Rakete, or Rocket. It started designing and building its own bikes 5 years ago.
We're
lucky because we can continue to sell our Rakete brand bikes. I hear from a lot of other bike shops around here that they're struggling to get new stock in. There are no more bikes available on the market right now, and that's a problem for retailers.
Bicicli doesn't just sell individual bikes. It also offers full-service leasing of entire fleets. Corporate bike mobility is trending in Berlin. Stefan Janssen is a partner at Bicicli.
Facilities managers are happy because they need less space. You can fit 8 bikes into one car parking slot. Human resources managers are happy because sick days go down by up to 25%. And mobility managers are happy because they're now leasing a fleet of €3,000 bikes instead of €60,000 cars.
Cities are having to rethink their transport infrastructure. Cars may indeed be going out of favour, even in car-crazy Germany. Making way for cyclists is the order of the day.
Fewer cars and more bikes could also improve the situation here in Kampala. A new intervention from North America could help also the environment in unexpected ways. Have you ever worn sandals made of algae? If not, you might be asking yourself, how does that even work? Well, take a look at this simple idea that could make our planet a little bit more plastic-free.
Around 8 million pieces of plastic end up in our oceans every day. Each can take more than 400 years to decompose. Avoiding plastic use is one solution, biodegradable products like this another. Researchers at a San Diego lab created a new material. It's made from an algae base and can decompose naturally. First they grow the algae in raceway ponds. Then when the algae are fully grown, they take the water out and create a gooey paste. The paste can be formed into any shape by pouring it into molds. Then just wait for it to dry. Companies have already approached the lab about working together on everything from rigid and soft foams to paint and coatings.
Almost every major shoe manufacturer has come to talk to us about the possibility of using our materials in their products. We're also talking to other companies, for example, for things like food packaging or other types of materials that we don't want to live forever in the environment. We really want those to be able to decompose or be able to be recycled.
The new sandals could be a step in the right direction to keep ordinary plastic out of the environment.
And how about you? If you're also doing your bit, tell us about it. Visit our website or send us a tweet. #DoingYourBit. We share your stories.
Plastic is also a hot topic in Ghana, as the amount of land cultivated by small farmers there grows. The amount of pesticides and weed killers used also increases. Those products come in large plastic containers, which pose two enormous environmental problems. First, the use of the chemicals themselves, and second, what's done with the containers once they're empty. Too often, they're used as things like water bottles, even though they still contain traces of toxic pesticides. A local initiative in Ghana is going to villages to make people aware of this hazard.
Mahmoud Mohammed Naruddin always keeps an eye out for them. These plastic bottles used to contain chemical fertilizers and now pose a danger to people and the environment. Farmers in Ghana often leave the used bottles lying around.
These containers are not properly disposed of. It can affect the health of the farmer, pollute water bodies, and even the consumers of the farmer's produce.
Mahmoud Naruddin is a journalist and an environmental activist. In 2015, he founded an NGO for climate change and food security, focusing on farming. He launched a campaign against the reuse of these bottles. Here in Safo, farmers have had bad experiences with them. I used agrochemicals on my farm and would just leave the containers there. That wasn't good at all, as one day my grandchild picked one, fetched water with it and drank it. She fell ill. The treatment was very costly. It was a big worry. Fortunately, the agric officer explained to us that we should not leave the used containers on the farm. So now we gathered all and put them in a tricycle, which goes to dump them. Kufo Kospi is part of Nuruddin's awareness-raising team. He works for the Agriculture Ministry in Safo and passed on his knowledge to the farmers.
I've been partnering with Center for Climate Change and Food Security for a year now, and we have been educating farmers on proper disposal of agrochemical containers, because there have been a massive or several complaints about farmers at my operational area, specifically Safo, on the effects the farmers have been going through the use of agrochemicals. So after a massive education on how to dispose them, there has been a well reduction of these cases.
Many of the farmers are now also taking more care when using the chemicals on their fields. Before you start to spray, you have to wear boots and a proper outfit. You also have to use a mask so you do not inhale the chemicals. The environmentalists are trying to get the message across that it would be better to do without the chemicals altogether. But it is difficult to persuade the farmers that organic fertilizers would protect their land better in the long term, in particular against droughts, a growing problem due to climate change. It's an uphill battle.
Most of our farmers that we have met across the country are not even aware of the impact of climate change. Some of them, less than 1% of them, don't even believe that climate change is real.
The activists are showing the farmers other ways they can help fight the effects of global warming, for example, with tree planting initiatives. Some 500 species have been planted so far.
Well, Portugal is one of the countries in southern Europe that has really profited from years of tourism. Both the seacoast and the capital, Lisbon, are magnets for visitors. Yet, since the start of the coronavirus pandemic, the number of tourists has dropped dramatically and had a profitable industry.
That's right, Sandra. But sometimes what is bad for business is good for nature. In Lisbon, for instance, pollution is down, and instead of groups of tourists everywhere, rare animals have started returning to the city. Go see this.
For the people of Lisbon, this is nothing short of a small miracle. Dolphins have returned to the River Tagus estuary. Many of the locals are thrilled.
I'm from Lisbon. Seeing all these dolphins is an incredible feeling.
As a biologist, Inês Clara often went dolphin watching in the Azores. These days, she works as a sailing instructor. But because of the pandemic, finding work is tough. There are very few tourists. But Inês and her boss say there's a silver lining for the environment.
This year there are more sardines and mackerel in the ocean. That's what dolphins like feeding on.
There are massive 50-kilo stone basses too, and huge sea basses. And we've never seen this many sardines.
Bernardo Quintela is an ornithologist who enjoys birdwatching in the Tagus Delta. Today, he spotted a group of flamingos a mere 20-minute car ride from Lisbon's city centre. Bernardo works for an agency promoting sustainable tourism.
The Tagus River Delta is a 14,000-hectare nature reserve, and the bird conservation area is even larger.
The pied avocet is one of the most common birds inhabiting these wetlands, which are home to 200 species of migratory birds. Some 60,000 black-tailed godwit come each winter. They're an endangered species. And a flamingo colony raises its young here and stays all year round. But this paradise is under threat. The Portuguese government has plans to build a new airport in Montijo, beyond the Vasco da Gama Bridge, right next to the wetlands, endangering this important ecosystem. 8 conservation groups are now taking the government to court.
We're taking action because of the many planes that will be landing beside these wetlands. It's not only dangerous for the birds themselves will also pose a serious danger to the aircraft. It makes no sense to build a new airport here now that Lisbon has just been declared Europe's green capital.
The water quality of the River Tagus has greatly improved, according to Ines. That's why so many dolphins have returned. And the fact that no noisy cruise ships are harbouring in the Portuguese capital helps too. Dolphins are very sensitive to noise.
Large ships are very invasive. Dolphins are disturbed by them and avoid swimming up the river.
Lisbon authorities have pledged that by 2022, docked cruise ships here in the new ship terminal, right beside Lisbon's old town, must turn off their motors to reduce emissions.
Every cruise ship docked in Lisbon will have to be connected to the electricity grid to reduce sulfur oxide emissions and cut pollution in the city.
Bernardo and Ines hope authorities will keep their promise, so that Lisbon can live up to its name of Europe's green capital.
Our dolphins are truly amazing creatures. But let's return to the African continent. Did you know that church congregations in Ethiopia play a key role in environmental protection? It all started when deforestation began to deplete the country's indigenous tree stocks. It was the congregations that fought to preserve their local forests and maintain species diversity. EcoAfrica went to South Gonda, where we found a community where more than 30 different kinds of trees are still growing. And it turns out it's not so hard to do.
For almost 25 years, Abba Gebremariam Gebreselassie has been tending to his church forest. Some 200 monks living here in this Orthodox Tewahedo community in northern Ethiopia. For centuries, monks have preserved the forest around their churches. Taking care of the seedlings has been a spiritual ritual for members of this faith. They view the natural forest as a symbol of heaven.
The monastery has 183.5 hectares of land. This is under the ownership of the monastery. We are committed today and tomorrow to transfer history and heritage we have got from our fathers, and it is our responsibility to plant and protect new trees whenever the old trees die and vanish.
Thanks to their efforts, many church compounds boast of large indigenous trees such as the white pear or the iron tree Olea africana, for example. Some of the trees around here are 100 years old. Ethiopia has less than 5% forest cover, down from 40% in 1990. Trees are cut down for charcoal and firewood and to make way for farming and grazing land. But the protected church forests have remained intact. The South Gonda region has an estimated 1,500 tiny church forests. The Ethiopian Orthodox Tewahedo Church has established a commission to help further conserve them. Kifle Woko is in charge of forest protection in the community.
The dominant forests are located in the church. Therefore, we have to, first we have to maintain, we have to protect the church forest itself. And secondly, we have to replicate the experience of the church to outside the community.
The monks have created new partnerships with local communities and schools. Drama and poetry sessions are part of the environmental education. In the 2 years since the church community project was founded, they have managed to create 3 plantations in the school grounds. The project is almost intended to improve the living standards of local people so as to reduce overdependence on existing forest resources. With additional funding from a German Protestant aid organization, 25 women here each received 3 sheep. Some have since grown to herds of nearly 10 animals.
I used to sell wood. I collected wood and sold it to buy food for my family. That is what my livelihood depended on, but now I've stopped that.
The church believes that since their monks are accepted and respected by the community, their conservation activities will serve as role models. But even with their efforts, convincing people here to preserve the forest instead of creating new farmland remains a challenge.
We here at EcoAfrica never said protecting the environment was easy. This program should be a constant reminder of how important it is to preserve nature. I'll leave you with those thoughts as I say goodbye. I hope you tune in to our next show. This is Neota signing out from the Lufasi Park in Lagos, Nigeria.
Thank you all for watching. Remember, you can also discuss these topics with us on our social media platforms. And if you have a great idea for protecting the environment, write to us. I am Sandra Twinobio, and it is a goodbye from Uganda.